3D platformers can be a source of fun and have been for years. They may not be as prominent as they were in the days of Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot, but there are still plenty around to have fun with. One such game is something that came from the developers of Sonic Mania that a lot of people were looking forward to. A game that kind of combines the optional speed of Sonic with some yo-yo mechanics with how you interact with the world. Let's dive right in. Here is my review of Penny's Big Breakaway for the Nintendo Switch. This story is about Penny, a street performer planning to go to a nearby gala to gain fame. However, she encounters a strange cosmic string that turns her yo-yo into a sentient entity that attacks the judge, branding her a felon and on the run from his army of penguin guards. Penny must traverse the kingdom and find a way to clear her name. Now, as a story, it's very cute. There isn't a lot of plot here, but what is represented is rather adorable, especially with the art style of this game's scenes and how animated Penny's expressions are. When it comes to gameplay, this is a 3D platformer. As you play each level, you'll be traversing 3D environments, attacking enemies, and using your yo-yo in all kinds of different ways to interact with the environment and find a way to the end of the stage. As far as the Switch version goes, it's pretty much the same as the other platforms. At launch, the game could only run at 30 FPS, though the Switch recently got an update with a performance mode that unlocks the frame rate to go up to 60. More on that later. As far as progression goes, it's very typical for a platformer. Penny's Big Breakaway has a bunch of different worlds you can visit, and you play the games in levels or stages where each world is comprised of a few levels, and sometimes a boss fight to open up the next world. What you do is platform around with your yo-yos. Once you're past the initial stage, Penny is on the run from the penguin guard. Each level is laid out in platforms and puzzles you have to solve by jumping. You have moving platforms, downhill segments, enemies to avoid, and lots of instant death pits. The idea is to use your maneuverability with the yo-yo to be able to get through each stage. It can be launched forward to grab onto enemies or just let you launch yourself across a gap. But you can also do different yo-yo tricks like the round-the-world double jump, creating a swing in midair to help you across longer gaps, and using it like a vehicle riding through downhills with momentum to quickly zip through obstacles. The thing about this game is what you have and how you navigate the world. There are tons of hazards like pitfalls, lava, and even deep water that Penny cannot swim through. You gotta use special techniques and power-ups to navigate, like red hot peppers to give you a huge vehicle mode boost, or a cake that gives you a helicopter ability to fly over hazards. And this is all set up in a way to give you choice. You can slowly navigate the world, talking to all the side quest NPCs and gathering collectibles from alternate paths, or go full Sonic mode and get through as fast as possible, chaining your jumps and vehicle modes to literally whiz through the level. There's a pretty clear Sonic inspiration here, especially when you get to certain platforming areas that just look like Sonic platforms. It's also nice with options. You don't have to do any of the side quests if you don't want to. The game will progress forward regardless of who you help or don't help, but you can, if you wish, to be able to get everything. As far as difficulty goes, I wouldn't put it up super high. It's got some tricky platforming areas, especially as you're learning what each of the tricks do and how to combo them together. It's nothing too crazy, more or less just, okay, let me just stand here and look at what's ahead and I'll figure out how to navigate it. Plus, the game has a very generous checkpoint system, allowing you to respawn after getting hit at your last checkpoint, and even gives you the option to do so when you get a game over. And that's in addition to the currency system where you can gather coins as you go through levels and buy little help things from the shop, like saving you from a pitfall or being captured by the guards. This all leads to just a lot of wacky fun with throwing a yo-yo around to move. It's just so colorful and enjoyable to see Penny swinging around on a yo-yo, and especially getting to the end of a stage and doing tricks to get more currency. This extends to the bosses as well. They're all very colorful and fun in wacky ways with how you're able to beat them, like playing a literal game of table pool with parts of a boss's arsenal as you dodge his attacks and clog up the battlefield. As far as content and length goes, you'll be spending a bit of time here. First time through should take you about 6 to 7 hours. It took me a bit longer than that, just from adjusting to the mechanics and a few puzzles that had me stumped with getting the right timing. But for a platformer like this, it's got a decent amount to do. Then we get to presentation. Visually, I think the game looks nice. Everything looks colorful, though I will admit there's a bit of fuzz in handheld mode when you go into certain stages with faraway objects that are rendered in. And that doesn't change much between the performance and quality video modes. While those do affect the frame rate, I noticed very little distance in visual quality. To give you an example, here is a screenshot of performance mode, and here is the same area in quality mode. I have to look pretty close to see any differences at all, and even when I do, it's pretty minimal. But speaking of frame rate, let's talk about performance. This game's had a lot of complaints since launch, and they've improved it with some patches. When you're in the quality or 30 FPS mode, the game sticks to 30 a bunch of the time, but will still drop into the 20s a pretty decent amount. But the last update added a performance or 60 FPS mode, though I think it's more of a frame rate unlocked mode than anything else. It will have a higher frame rate. I've seen 60 FPS here and there for brief moments, but it'll very often not go that much higher than 30 FPS. And in some areas, it actually drops frames more in performance mode. The area you're seeing right now in performance mode easily drops into the 20s with the jittery lag, while the same area in quality mode doesn't. Despite performance mode being around, I still think quality mode is better to use for consistency. There have also been some reports about the game being glitchy with players falling through the environment. I did not seriously play this game until the most recent patch, and I managed the entire adventure without a single one of these glitches, so fingers crossed that it's now fixed. That's all for performance, so let's go into battery life. Penny's Big Breakaway will give the original and light models a battery range of about 3.5 to 5 hours, while the V2 and OLED models get about 6 to 7 hours. In conclusion, Penny comes to the Switch with plenty of 3D platforming and speed gameplay fun. Now on the downside, the game still suffers from performance drops from time to time, and oddly enough, even larger ones in the new 60 FPS mode. But if you can stomach 30 FPS with occasional dips, it's a colorful and fun little platformer to play on the go. Reviews to Go rates Penny's Big Breakaway for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.